that you are studying is an instrument of oppression. There are two types of theories. There is the theory of the wealthy and the theory of the rich. You can say the theory of the 1% and the theory of the 99% in modern. So all you are being taught is the theory of the 1%. There is another theory which you have no exposure to, which is the theory of the bottom 99%. Now, many issues which are of life and death importance to the 99% don't even get mentioned in the discussions of the 1% theory. So, the question is, first of all, let us say that it is, as many people have shown, that it is possible to achieve high growth, it is possible to change the destiny of the nation. There is no, it's not that we lack resources, it's not that we lack human capital, nothing is missing except the soft component. You might say that it's the software which is missing. What is the software? Software is the programs which are used to run the economy. And what are these programs? These are the programs which the economists devise. For example, trade liberalization is a complete red herring. It doesn't matter whether we export or increase exports or we decrease exports. That has nothing to do with our ability to create prosperity. Similarly, increasing tax to GNP ratio. This will only cause harm. It cannot cause a benefit. And you look at the policy prescriptions of all of that. So we're talking about, there is a lot of overhead, lot of corruption. Our cost of doing business is high. Why? There is a reason for this. The reason is that we are actually living in the same. I mean, the colonial regime which existed prior to independence now exists in another form, which is today the rulers of the country who are entirely different class from the bottom 90%. They speak a different language. They have different visions about where they want to go. Their dogs and cats get better health treatment than the average Pakistani. So, and all of the theories that we are discussing right now, the budget, etc., it all has to do with how this top 1% can make more progress than they are currently doing. It has nothing to do with the fortunes of the bottom 90%. So, okay, next slide. So, what are the obstacles to our achieving high growth? Well, the first obstacle is wrong theories. A lot of people, wrong economic theory. There are a lot of people who are very sincere, very honest. They want to help Pakistan grow. They are fed the poison that is being taught at Qaeda. You are actually the most vital link, even though you don't recognize it. That the economic theory is what drives the policy. And the theories which you are being told are just completely, well, they're not, I wouldn't say that they're wrong. They are just theories which are designed to only address the problems of the top 1%. And they will be helpful to the top 1%. So, currently, you see, theory is not formulated in a vacuum. You see, the idea that we are studying under is that economic theory is a positive theory. That is, we are looking at the facts. There are no opinions and no biases. This is completely false. The economic theory that you are studying is a normative theory. It is designed to protect the interests of some people and designed to harm the interests of the others. And today, the world is functioning under a type of colonial system. You see, in the past, when the British ruled the world, then it was obvious. The revenue was collected from Pakistan and was transferred to England. Today, the same thing is happening. The poorest countries of the world paid about $7 trillion to the richest countries of the world in interest payments. And there was another $7 trillion which was transferred from the by the multinationals using transfer pricing and other tricks. So basically, we are under colonial rule. All of the surplus is going to the richer countries. So how can we develop? It's impossible. Basically, what you saw was that the development project, which is very low, is what basically why did India not grow at the same rate as Australia or the USA? All three were colonies of the Britain. But the thing is that India remained under British rule, and all of the surplus, basically, we've all studied the solo growth model. So you know that in order to grow, you have to take investment and you have to put investment in your capital. And the more capital you increase, actually, there are some serious defects in that theory, but overall, this is true that you have to invest in the future in order to grow. So if all of your surplus is being removed and taken to some other place, as we saw in the budget also, that all of the surplus is going in interest payments to some party or the other. So how can you grow? I mean, you don't have any surplus. What you need is to have that surplus. You produce something, and then you take that surplus and you invest it wisely. You will grow. But if you don't have any surplus, then you cannot grow. So the system now the thing is that this system has changed. It's not the same as it was in the colonial era, and now it's no longer a case of nations. It's not white versus brown anymore. It used to be like that. Now it is just top 1%, whether brown or black or white, against the bottom 9%. It's the multinationals which are ruling the world, and they are never mentioned. You don't have any discussion of that in any of your economics textbooks. They are invisible, and they are ruling the world. The nations are irrelevant, unimportant. The USA is under control. The USA cannot make its own policies. Obama, when he was campaigning, he made many campaign promises which were against the interests of the multinationals. For instance, one very simple campaign promise that he made was that we have a domestic monopoly, and they are selling drugs at 100 times the world price. So what I will do is I will allow imports of foreign drugs. He could not get that bill passed. In fact, the bill that was passed said that the government, which is a big healthcare operator, cannot negotiate with the private sector. This is the most amazing bill that you have ever heard of. It's impossible. Really. The congressman who got it passed immediately got a $2 million job. He resigned from the Congress and he joined it. We will talk about corruption in Pakistan, but if you look at the volume in terms of dollars, corruption in US is much higher than in Pakistan. So anyway, the thing is that what was the bill? The bill said that the government cannot negotiate with the pharmacy. Whatever the price they name, they just have to accept it. They cannot even, and they have a lot of payers, and they can say that, look, you're charging $100, and in Canada, this same drug is selling for $30, so you should at least give us a, but they're not even allowed to argue. They just, whatever they say, they write the check. So, all over the world, the Greece is in trouble, Ireland is in trouble. All over the world, the financial sector is ruling, and the people are being impoverished in order to enrich the already wealthy. Next. So now you see, the situation is that it is not in the interest of the powers that are ruling the world to have development. So what they are doing is they are promoting theories and institutions which make sure that we cannot develop. I mean, they actually study how did nations become prosperous? If you look at the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China example, all of them have sovereign money. The Keynesian theory, it says that the government doesn't have to worry about deficit. If you have high unemployment, then you should print money. It will not be inflationary. You should run a deficit, and it will just reduce unemployment. It will not cause inflation. This theory has been rejected by the Chicago School, which is very much instrument of the wealthy, and now it's no longer really believed, even though it's true theory. But the theory is that if we use this theory, we can find a way out. We can still get our development expenditure high by running a deficit, but it is no longer possible to do that because they have made sure by law that we cannot do it. And why did that law pass? Because the theories that we taught in economics said that if the government gets deficit financing, there will be a hyperinflation, even though this is not true. And there's lots of examples which show that it is not true. So you frighten people with tales of government created, governments. Everybody here knows that governments are inefficient and they do this and that and the other. But this is not true. Actually, if you look at the private sector, the global financial crisis, was it caused by the government or was it caused by the private sector? It was caused by private sector misbehavior, and very obvious and very apparent. And actually, the truth is that the same people are in the private sector and the same people are in the government. So the level of honesty is determined by cultural considerations, and however much corruption you see in the government sector, you will see the same amount of corruption in the private sector. So this idea that the governments are more corrupt than the private sector, this is just false, but there is a reason for this idea, and the reason is that the governments are the only sector which have a possibility of creating development. All of the examples of development that we have seen have been led by governments. There is no single example of development which took place by the private sector acting on its own. Not one. But so it is important, if you want to prevent countries from developing, you have to make sure that the governments are crippled. They don't get any chance. You balance wage budgets so that the government doesn't have any chance to use its budget wisely. Austerity is imposed, and many other tactics. Next. So, if there is a book by the World Bank called the East Asian Miracle, which studies how the East Asian countries became so prosperous. They had, for 30 years, they grew 7% every year. The book starts by saying that they did everything against the rules. I mean, whatever we say, our policies, they violated every single one of them, and they point out, they list them. They had big industries which were guided by the government. They had industrial policy. They had export subsidies. They had price controls, restrictions on FDI, tight government control of money. So they said, okay, this is how you develop. So now they created this organization called the World Trade Organization, and we have signed it. And all of these things are banned. We cannot do them. The World Trade WTO says that government cannot support the interference private sector. It cannot do industrial policy. It cannot provide export subsidies. It should allow free capital movements so that you can protect your industry. This myth that is widespread in economic theory, that free trade is good, is completely bogus. Now, even in the USA, in 2014, there was a study published in a very highly respected economic journal, which says that we allowed China to compete because we said that there is competitive advantage, and if some industries of ours go under, the workers will find jobs in better industries with higher competitive advantage. But did this happen? No. What happened was that the Chinese competed, our people lost a lot of jobs, millions of jobs were destroyed, and no new jobs were created. These people remained unemployed, and they are now working on government dole. So, next slide. The IMF is the Gunda of the corporations. They ensure that nobody gets out of line. So, just a few examples, like they forced Zambia to privatize its copper mines in 1990s. At that time, the public sector was earning $200 million in taxes from the industry. In 2004, the price had increased quite a lot. The quantity was the same, and it was the government revenue was only 7 million. Same story for PTCL privatization here. They have sold the PTCL for an amount which was less than the 1 year revenue that the government was earning from PTCL. And since then the revenue has declined and the tax earnings has declined. So basically they try to, in the under British rule, when they entered, our textile industry was much more efficient and had a much better set of products and prices than Liverpool and British industries. So they took many steps to destroy the industry. In fact, we had machine production, so we went and destroyed the machines. Then our textile weavers started using their fingers, so they actually cut off the thumbs of the weavers in order to prevent them. So basically, the same kind of thing is policy is going on today. Next. So what are the what do we need? Well, basically, what we need to do is invest in local productive capacities. We need to invest in our people. We don't need foreign investment. We don't need to work on exports, taking our best products and sending them abroad. That's not relevant. What's relevant is that actually there is a strategy. What we need is the current paradigm, which is everybody thinking the government should do development, create growth, and then give the fruit to the people. This is completely ridiculous. What needs to be done is that you make the lives of the people comfortable and they will do the growth. You need 1 million engines of growth, and you can get them if you just provide the people with the support they need, the basic needs and the social infrastructure, which again there is a myth that we are too poor to do that. Completely bogus. We have enough money to make sure that everybody in Pakistan can eat and they can have healthcare. Everything is possible. But it is not in the interest of the wealthy. Even now, in very common in drawing room conversations, I have heard that okay, we educate all of the poor. Where will our servants come from? So this is the sentiment basically globally. So next, so there is currently the social sector, the programs that are running are highly inefficient, as everybody knows. But this is by design. We don't want to create development. Otherwise, if this money was used wisely, there is no difficulty in eliminating unemployment. What we need to work for is self-sufficiency instead of comparative advantage. Just think that what does the theory of comparative advantage teach you? It says that you grow your cotton and let us do the high technology production. Now, when they export their software, which the marginal cost of the floppy disk is 100 rupees, and they charge $5,000 for it. And we export cotton, we grow it at 100 rupees and we sell it at 200 rupees. So now this is fair trade. So these are the theories that we are taught. That this is, and instead, what we need to do is that we need to work for self-sufficiency. We don't want to have those imports which are damaging. But the thing is that our elite class is addicted to those imports. So if we say that let us ban imports and develop self-sufficiency, what will happen is that we will have to shift to lower grade, lower quality goods. And this is the domestic demand strategy. The domestic demand strategy, next. Domestic demand strategy says that okay, instead of marketing to the world, market to your own people. You give them some income which you can, if you make it your goal, and you provide them with sufficient money so that they can do their own businesses, and then sell products to them. But what kind of products will we sell? We sell very cheap, very poor products. This is exactly how Japan developed. This is exactly how China developed. Japanese products at one time were the most third-class products in the world. Why? They were learning. So we want to now, the Ministry of Commerce wants to jump to the top class. They want to achieve, and this is the common ambition, that we want to we want to achieve the frontier production, the highest quality. We want to compete with Korea and with the other leading Germany countries. But those are goods that our 99% cannot afford. So produce very simple goods, very cheap, very crude goods, which we can sell to our own public, and don't worry about the cost. And then we can do a lot of production, and the mass production can be done in that. So domestic demand-based policy is just a rethinking of the paradigm instead of export-led. Next. Basically, there are many things which can be done which would change the game completely. But basically, the will is lacking. The political will is lacking because there is a small group of people who derives benefit. And there is a large group of people who are deluded by false theories. So these are people who are sincere and they want to develop, but they have the idea that because of the wrong theories, that the wrong things should be done. And so you see the great strategy of the best strategy of those who are in control, those who control. Actually, you see, the Keynesian theory, which was dominant in the world for about 50 years, since from 1930 to 1980. It said, what is the main point of Keynesian theory? The main point of Keynesian theory is that the government should assure full employment because the free market won't do it. Now, this full employment is the most harmful thing to the top 1%. They don't want full employment because if people are fully employment, then they have the capability of living for themselves, and they are not slaves. If there is no full employment, then you can hire the person at your own terms. That if I don't hire you, you will die of starvation. So this is what the multinationals want. They want to have a subservient labor force, and they don't want full employment. So Keynesian theory was destroyed. All such terrible, these guys Lucas and Sargent, the theories they said are so ridiculous that Robert Solow, he has a quote, you can find it on the internet, that these people's theories are so ludicrous, so absurd, that I don't want to even discuss it with them because that will mean that I'm accepting. I just want to laugh at them. So, because what they say is that there is no unemployment. Anybody who's unemployed is just so because he doesn't want to work. That's it. So, they haven't looked at the world around them. Alright, so I think I'll stop here. And we're not going to have a stretch in the month.